All right, so get ready because today we are diving into something truly unique. It's called Rise or Die: The Path to Your Higher Self by Ya Boy Rick.
Yeah, boy Rick.
Yeah, have you heard of him?
I have heard the name.
You might be thinking, wait, isn't that the former?
Yes,
Yeah, you heard that right.
that's the one.
Ya Boy Rick has had quite the life, let's just say.
Yeah.
But now he's a self-help author, musician, and YouTuber. Talk about a reinvention.
Yeah, it's definitely not your average self-help guru backstory. And that's part of what makes this book so intriguing. You know, it makes you wonder, can someone with a past like his offer genuine wisdom about personal growth?
Exactly. And the book itself is anything but predictable. It's got this blend of spirituality. He talks about these four archetypes as coaches combined with tough love and even a dash of what he calls dark psychology.
Interesting.
It's not about manipulation, though, but more about understanding how people operate, especially in tough situations.
It almost feels like he's taking the self-help genre and giving it a streetwise edge.
I like that streetwise edge. Okay, so let's break down these four archetypes. First, we've got Michael the Warrior archetype.
Yeah.
He's all about discipline, taking action, no excuses. Y'all boy Rick has this exercise called the no excuses list, where you basically call yourself out on your own BS. Have you ever done anything like that?
I think we all have those moments where we realize we're standing in our own way. What's interesting about this exercise is that it forces you to confront those patterns of self-sabotage going
Yeah.
on. You know?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it head on.
Yeah.
So next up is Thoth, the archetype of wisdom and self-awareness in ancient Egyptian mythology. Thoth was the god of knowledge and writing right. So it makes sense that Yahboy Rick connects him to the idea of understanding your beliefs and how your thoughts shape your reality.
Right. And in the book, there's an exercise called Rewrite the Lies, where you take those negative thoughts and reframe them into something more empowering. It's like taking control of the narrative in your head.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
Yeah.
Take control of the narrative in your head. Then there's Hermes the trickster, always ready to shake things up. He's all about adaptability and thriving in chaos.
This resonated with me because it seems like we're living in increasingly chaotic times. Boy Rick argues that instead of panicking, we can use these moments of upheaval to our advantage if we stay calm and adaptable.
It's like that saying, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade, but with a Hermes twist.
Exactly. And in the book, one of the exercises connected to Hermes is flip the script, where you take a situation where you're stuck and brainstorm completely new approaches.
I like that.
Yeah.
And last but not least, there's Jupiter, the visionary leader. He's all about helping you define your big picture goals and manage your energy accordingly.
Yeah, Boy Rick really emphasizes the importance of saying no to anything that doesn't align with your overall purpose. It's about protecting your time and energy for the things that truly matter.
He even has you write a one-sentence life mission statement to keep you focused. It's almost like a compass for your life, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's a concise way to distill your values and priorities so you're not constantly second-guessing yourself or getting pulled in a million directions.
Right, so we've got these four archetypes, each representing a different aspect of self-improvement. But then Yaboy Rick throws in this curveball dark psychology.
Now, when I first heard that, I was a little wary, but he's not talking about using dark psychology to manipulate others. It's more about understanding the darker aspects of human nature and using that knowledge to your advantage, especially in challenging situations.
Like being aware of how people might try to manipulate you so you can avoid those traps.
Exactly. It's almost like a self-defense mechanism for your mind.
Yeah, and he's got some pretty interesting ideas about habits, too. Instead of just trying to break bad habits,
Right.
he suggests reframing them. Have you heard of that approach?
It's definitely a different way of looking at things. Yahweh Rick argues that bad habits often stem from positive traits that are just misdirected. So the key is to figure out what's driving that behavior and then channel that energy into something more productive.
Yeah, it's like instead of seeing yourself as like inherently flawed, you're recognizing the positive intention behind the behavior and finding a healthier outlet for it. That's a much more empowering approach, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And it ties into this idea of self-acceptance that Yahweh Rick emphasizes throughout the book.
Mm.
He's not about beating yourself up for your shortcomings. It's more about understanding yourself, warts and all, and then working with what you've got.
And he provides a framework for doing that with this daily ritual. He outlines it's basically a way to incorporate these archetypal energies into your everyday life.
Okay, so it's not just about reading about Michael, Thoth, Hermes, and Jupiter. It's about actually bringing them to life in your own experience. Exactly. He suggests starting your day by visualizing Michael and committing to one disciplined action no matter how small you know it could be. making your bed, going for a run, or tackling a challenging work task first thing in the morning.
It's like setting the tone for the day with a little dose of warrior energy.
Right. And then later in the day, you might check in with Thoth through journaling or some quiet reflection. It's a chance to step back, observe your thoughts and feelings, and maybe identify any limiting beliefs that are holding you back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when things get chaotic, which, let's face it, they inevitably do, Boy Rick says it's time to channel Hermes the trickster.
He's all about adaptability and resourcefulness.
Hmm.
Finding creative solutions when things don't go according to plan.
Yeah, instead of freaking out, you use that Hermes energy to think on your feet and turn a potential disaster into an opportunity.
Exactly. And finally, Yaboy Rick suggests ending the day with Jupiter, the visionary leader. This is where you reflect on your big picture goals. Make sure your actions are aligned with your purpose and recharge your energy for the day ahead.
So it's like a full circle approach to personal growth, incorporating these different archetypes into each part of your day.
And it gives you a framework to work with, but you can also tailor it to your own needs and preferences.
Right. One thing that really stood out to me in this whole daily ritual concept is Yawboy Rick's emphasis on saying no.
Oh, he's got a whole chapter on that. And it's so relevant in today's world where we're constantly bombarded with demands on our time and attention.
It's like we're conditioned to say yes to everything,
Yeah.
even if it means sacrificing our own well-being or neglecting the things that truly matter to us.
Yellowboy Rick argues that learning to say no is essential for protecting our energy and creating space for the things we actually want to do.
He talks about how every time you say yes to something, you're essentially saying no to something else. It's all about conscious choice and being mindful of how you spend your precious time and energy.
Yeah, and having that life mission statement he talks about can be helpful in that process. It gives you a clear filter for making decisions. If something doesn't align with your overall purpose, you're more likely to say no to it.
It's like that quote, the difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything. I think Warren Buffett said that.
Yeah, it makes sense. You can't be everything to everyone, and you can't do everything at once.
Now let's talk about this community aspect that Yaboy Rick emphasizes. He's actually created this online community called No Bullshit Community for people who are following his teachings.
It's a space for people to connect with each other, share their struggles and triumphs, and support each other on this journey of self-improvement.
He really believes in the power of community to foster growth and accountability. It's like having a tribe of like-minded people who are all striving for the same thing.
It's interesting how he's managed to build this whole ecosystem around his teachings. He's got the book, the YouTube channel, the music, and now this online community.
Yeah, it's a multi-platform approach to personal development, which I think speaks to how people consume information these days.
It's not just about reading a book anymore. It's about engaging with the material in different ways and finding what resonates with you most.
And speaking of resonating, I want to go back to this idea of reframing habits. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on how this might work in practice.
Well, let's say you're someone who struggles with procrastination. Yaboy Rick might ask, what's the positive intention behind that behavior? Maybe you're actually a perfectionist who's afraid of failing, so you delay starting tasks until the last minute.
It's like that saying, procrastination is the thief of time, but maybe it's also a shield against potential criticism or disappointment.
Exactly. So instead of just trying to force yourself to stop procrastinating, you might explore those underlying fears and find healthy ways to manage them. Maybe you break down tasks into smaller chunks, set realistic deadlines, or practice self-compassion when things don't go perfectly.
It's about understanding the root of the behavior and then finding alternative ways to meet that underlying need.
And it's a much more compassionate approach than just beating yourself up for being lazy or undisciplined.
Right. And it ties back to that whole idea of self-acceptance that we were talking about earlier. You're not trying to change who you are fundamentally. You're working with your existing strengths and weaknesses to create positive change.
Yeah, it's about evolution, not revolution.
Now, one of the things that makes Boy Rick's approach so compelling is that he's not just spouting theories. He's speaking from a place of lived experience.
Right. He's not afraid to share his own struggles and how he's applied these principles to his own life.
Yeah, he talks about how he used to be addicted to chaos and drama, but through these archetypes and his own personal growth work, he's learned to create a more stable and fulfilling life.
And that kind of authenticity can be really powerful. It makes you feel like, hey, if you can do it, maybe I can too.
Exactly. And it brings us to this question. Can someone with a past like Boy Rick's actually offer valuable insights into personal growth?
I think it's a question worth pondering. We often have these preconceived notions about where wisdom should come from, but what if some of the most profound lessons come from people who have faced adversity, made mistakes, and come out the other side.
It's like that saying, the best teachers are those who have been through the fire.
And Yahweh Rick has definitely been through the fire. He's not sugarcoating the process of personal growth. He's acknowledging that it's hard work, that it requires discipline and a willingness to face your shadows.
Right, but he's also offering a message of hope, a belief that transformation is possible for anyone who's willing to put in the effort.
And he's providing a unique set of tools and a different perspective than what you might find in your typical self-help book.
So as we move into the final part of our deep dive, I want to leave you with this question. Which of these archetypes, Michael, Thoth, Hermes, or Jupiter, speaks to you most strongly right now?
And how might you tap into that archetype's energy to create positive change in your own life?
It's interesting, how he manages to kind of weave together this ancient wisdom with modern psychology and even a touch of street smarts.
Yeah, it's a unique blend you don't see every day.
Mhm.
You've got these timeless archetypes like Michael and Thoth,
Right.
but he's also incorporating ideas like dark psychology and habit reframing, which have gained popularity in recent years.
Yeah, it's almost like he's bridging the gap between ancient wisdom traditions and contemporary self-help.
Exactly. He's taking these timeless principles and making them relevant and accessible to a modern audience.
And his background plays a role in that, right?
Absolutely.
He's able to connect with people who might not typically gravitate towards self-help because he speaks their language.
He's not afraid to use slang, be provocative, challenge conventional
But
thinking.
he's keeping it real, and that can be so refreshing in a genre that's often filled with overly positive affirmations and vague advice.
I think that's a big part of why his message resonates with so many people.
Mm.
He's not shying away from the messy realities of life.
Now, I want to circle back to this idea of rising, which is obviously a central theme in the book. What do you think Yahweh Rick really means by that?
I think it goes beyond just the title. It's a call to action, an invitation to step into our full potential to become the best versions of ourselves.
He's challenging us to rise above our limitations, our beliefs and behaviors that are holding us back from truly living.
And he provides a roadmap, for doing that. Through these archetypes, the exercises, and the daily ritual, he's laid out a plan.
He's basically saying, look, I've been there, I've made mistakes, but I've also learned how to rise, and you can too.
It's very powerful, that message of hope and empowerment. He's not just telling us what to do, he's showing us that it's possible.
Now, I know some people might be skeptical of Yahweh Rick's approach, given his unconventional background. What would you say to those who are hesitant to take advice from someone with his past?
Well, I think it's understandable to have some reservations. We're often conditioned to think that wisdom and guidance should come from, certain sources, therapists, academics, spiritual leaders, people with a certain level of perceived authority.
But Yahweh Rick is kind of turning those expectations on their head.
Exactly. He's showing us that wisdom can come from unexpected places, and that sometimes the most profound insights come from people who have faced adversity and come out stronger on the other side.
Yeah, it's a good reminder not to judge a book by its cover, or in this case, a self-help guru by his past.
You can learn from anyone who has something valuable to teach you, regardless of their background or credentials.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Rise or Die, I want to encourage you to keep an open mind.
Yeah, don't dismiss his message just because of who he is or where he comes from. Look beyond the surface and consider the message itself.
Right, focus on the substance of his teachings, on the timeless wisdom he's sharing, and see if it resonates with you.
Think about how you might apply these principles to your own life. Maybe there's an exercise that speaks to you or an archetype that you feel particularly drawn to.
Yeah, explore those connections, experiment with the practices, and see what happens. You might be surprised by what you discover about yourself.
Because ultimately, Rise or Die is about empowering ourselves to create the lives we want.
It's about taking control of our destinies.
And that's a message worth listening to no matter who it comes from.
So if you're feeling stuck, if you're yearning for more, if you're ready to rise above your limitations,
No, Boy Rick might just be the unconventional guide you've been waiting for.
yeah, the one to help you unlock your potential.
It's time to quiet the noise, listen to that inner voice, and start doing the work.
Because the only one who can truly hold you back is you.
So what are you waiting for? Rise or die. The choice is yours.
Well, that's our deep dive for today. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep rising.